Can you get people to listen to your podcast using Facebook ads and a limited budget? That was the test that I wanted to do. These are the results, plus a lot more insight. You'll know the answer by the end of this show. Plus, I'm also asking you what test you think I should be doing next. You know, it is not easy clicking go on Facebook ads. No, it's not the clicking itself. Facebook Ads Manager just isn't easy to navigate. The first time I set up the ads, I set up a default budget. This wasn't me entering it, it was the way the system worked, of 350 British pounds a day. That's 475 US dollars to run indefinitely, i.e. that budget every single day forever. I desperately looked how to stop it, but luckily the ads actually have to be approved first, so I quickly deleted them, but then had to enter everything again. My goal, though, was not to empty my bank account and end up in a row with my partner, but to see if we as independent podcasters could really get listeners with Facebook ads on a limited budget. My limit was going to be 20 British pounds per ad. That's 27 US dollars and a maximum runtime of 1 week, not forever. The other thing slowing me down is I think it's almost impossible not to want to tinker with your advert once you've created it. If you've done these ads before, I suspect I was experiencing exactly what you have. If you haven't done it before, you're about to find out. I'm sure you know the feeling though. I mean, you just can't stop adjusting it. I came up with my ad in the last episode, if you heard that one, but you find yourself moving the words up a few millimeters. You know, the image was slightly more contrast or slightly less saturation. And I spent 5 hours making the pineapple ad originally, including going to the supermarket to get 2 pineapples, but I spent 3 more hours tinkering. Time probably better spent on social media or doing podcast episodes. From my experience as well, gut feel so often fails and only the hard data matters. So this is why I wanted to do this test and get on with it. If you don't know what I mean, by the way, by these 2 ads, then subscribe to this podcast right now and have a listen back to the last episode where I explain the whole process. One change that was worthwhile doing, I think, was to remove the barriers to someone subscribing. Because basically, once someone clicks on that ad, they've obviously got to get through to your subscribe button. And the more steps they have to go through, the more chance is that they're going to give up. So where do people listen to podcasts? I mean, when we listen to podcasts, where do you listen to it? Do you listen to it on a tablet? Do you listen to it on your desktop device? Most people, by far, listen to it on their phone. So if I show ads on desktop computers, the chances of someone then going, oh, I need to pick up my phone, now I need to find my podcast app, etc., is going to be much lower than if I get someone who's already on their mobile phone. It was good logic, so I tried that. I set it in my Facebook ads to only show the advert to people on mobile. I also spent a few minutes removing clutter from the actual landing page where they go to after clicking the ad. And this is the reason why. When you go to like Amazon or e-commerce sites and get to the checkout page, you find that everything else on that page has disappeared. Right? There is only one choice, and that is to buy the product. It's almost hard to go anywhere else. Obviously, it's designed to get you to psychologically not get distracted and make your only choice to be to spend money. So I took that same approach. I thought, let's give this a try. And I removed the menu, the sidebar, and everything else on my subscribe page. So all there is now is a logo and links to the different podcast platforms. Literally nothing else. I did wonder also about adding something like a pop-up on the page. But personally, I find websites that have pop-ups are really quite annoying. And I often leave those websites. So I don't know whether you want to try them. Apparently they work for some things. If you're trying to sell products to get people to subscribe to email lists. But I didn't want to try it here, so I left that out. The reason, by the way, that I'm actually sending them to a subscribe page on my website is that there's no good way to actually document when people become subscribers across all your podcast platforms. If you're just releasing a podcast on iTunes, then great. But most of us are releasing it across multiple platforms, and there's no way of doing it. So on my page are subscribe links to various platforms. By the way, if you don't have a website, there are other services like Linktree that you can use. I'll put a note in the show notes to show simple links without distractions as well. So you don't actually need a website to do this if you don't want to. The final part before I began the test was to ensure I could track every click on that subscribe page. Now, I tried to understand Google Tag Manager, which is meant to integrate with Google Analytics to do exactly this. But I spent a while trying to read it and I have absolutely no idea what they were going on about, so I gave up on that. So what I did was I set up the links on my page, so the actual images on my page, I set up the links on there with the free Bitly service. Again, I'll put a link to this in the show notes if you don't know this one already. So if someone then clicks that image, I will then be able to see whether they clicked on the subscribe link to which particular platform. So I had 2 ads ready to run, £20 on each as the budget. The last thing I did, as I had on social media at the beginning of the week, was to press go. Just before Christmas and in the standard logo one. And now I need to set go to get those underway. And I'm going to run them for a week and see how many clicks I actually get. Now, the only thing with that is that when I actually then checked the ads were going, they weren't. And I found I had to actually move another slider. The ad manager really does need some work, but that also left this sort of nagging feeling of have I entered everything correctly, but there was not much I can do. The test was now underway, and I guess this is part of the test as well. 24 hours later and the first results were in. I will cover this first day's results in a bit more detail and then summarise the rest so that I can get to my conclusions. But this just gives you a picture of kind of the results and the impact that it was having. So day one, nearly 1,000 people combined had seen the ads, and pretty much everyone I'd spoken to, including if you engage with me on social media as well, expected the pineapple ad to do really well. This is the funny one with the pineapple with the headphones on to be winning. But the winner so far was not the Ogilvy style ad at all. Not the one based on international marketing principles proving over 100 years. Instead, it was the plain and boring simple logo advert with 3 clicks so far on that ad by 3 people amongst those 1,000. But the pineapple ad had been seen by more people, 200 more people in fact, despite Facebook defining it as poor quality. You know, perhaps people were engaging more with the pineapple or pausing when they saw it than the logo, but they just weren't then clicking on it. Now for the plain ad, so for the logo ad, 3 people had clicked the advert, but only 1 person had then clicked through further to actually subscribe. They chose Pocket Casts as their podcast platform. Doing the math, that means a click rate on the ad of just 0.3% and just 0.1% actually subscribing. The average click-through rate on Facebook is 0.9%, apparently. It varies according to the category between 1.6 to 0.5% in some of the research I've done. There was actually a great article I found about this on a website called wordstream.org, and I will put a link to that in the show notes so that you can see that one. Click-through rates actually, when you look at the different categories for it, technology, for example, has 1.04%, education has 0.73%. Now, more interesting perhaps is the average cost per click. So education has $1.06 per click, and technology $1.27. But without these being directly related to podcasting, I don't think you can really base any serious decisions on how they compare to my ads. But at least they give a sort of benchmark as what you should expect the results to be for a successful ad campaign. So for me, I'd so far spent £4 and 61 pence to get 1 subscriber. But that was just after 24 hours. So what happened next? By the way, just a reminder, if you're not already subscribed to this show and you want to know what really works in podcasting, I'm putting it to the test. It's not my opinion that matters. I'm letting the data do all the talking here. So if you'd like to follow my research, then click like or add a comment or click the subscribe and notification button if you've got that option too. And if you get a chance, a review on iTunes would be fantastic as well if you would like to add something on there too, if you'd like to follow along with the show. So there had been a change by the next day. Place your bets. Which one was working best now? Was it the plain logo one or was it the pineapple one? I'll give you a moment to decide. The pineapple or the plain ad? The winner was still the logo, the plain ad, but only just 1,500 people had now seen the ads. There'd been 5 clicks on the ad, 3 subscribers. So that's roughly £4 or $5.25 per subscriber. Are you gulping at those prices yet? Because I certainly was. Those prices just seem insane. Why would you ever pay so much? I was already coming to the conclusion from the data that Facebook ads were a total waste of money. And I said that on social media during the week. But there could be a way still to use these. But let me show you what happened by the end of the test first before I start to round up some of the conclusions of what I learned. As I record this now, it is the end of the week. So let me now actually look at the ad manager and click stop on these ads so that we can get some final results. So the 2 ads combined have reached 2,346 people. I've spent 18 British pounds and 71 pence, which is 25.43 US dollars in total, reaching people. I could have run them for longer, but I think the results are already clear on here. 5 people out of the 2,346 people clicked the link in the ad. That's an appalling 0.2%. But that wasn't, of course, the end goal. Not to get them just to click the ad. It was to get them to subscribe. And looking at Bitly now, I've gained 5 subscribers. So that's still, if you do the math, $5 per subscriber. Once again, it feels like the answer is already pretty clear here. As I like to say, let's let the data talk. Well, I think we're almost there, but not quite. I'm sure you've heard of Podcast Movement. If not, it's worth checking them out. I joined an online networking session before Christmas organised by them, and I got into a conversation about using Facebook ads just like this to buy listeners. The conversation went something like this. Facebook ads don't work. And in fact, that was pretty much the extent of the conversation I had with everyone. I still wanted to test it, which is why I did this test over the past week. The only way to get them to work, according to people there, is by testing them. And a few months back, I don't know whether you saw the live panel show I did, and I'm hoping to organise more of these, with Matt Nappo from Minddog TV. He joined us on the live panel on Can I Make a Hit podcast, and he found that by testing ads, he got people to subscribe by doing different varieties and finding out which ones actually worked. So he tried different phrases and images. But when he got them to subscribe, he found that these people only actually subscribed and watched for a few seconds to his videos if they came from Facebook. He found people who subscribed as a result of hearing his ad on another podcast or media platform in his genre consumed a huge amount more. But the problem here is that testing costs money, right? And how many independent podcasters like you and me have the money to go on testing until we find the right formula? I discussed this actually the other day on Phil Better's Invest in Yourself show. If you've got a business that you know the lifetime value of each subscriber that you're selling to, so if you know a subscriber will give you a value of $10, for example, if your acquisition cost, so the cost of your Facebook ad is $5, you know full well that it's worthwhile doing. But if you're doing this for fun, then what is the price worth paying for you? $5 per listeners? Certainly not for me. So if an independent podcaster with a limited budget is trying to use Facebook ads to get listeners, is it worth it? It is certainly not looking good so far. But there's still one more thing. I actually found some rather damning evidence. How popular do you think Gimlet's Facebook page is? So this is Gimlet, global podcast producer, massive podcast producer, loads of resources, no problem with having money for testing ads and for social media engagement. I've grown my Twitter account, so my personal one, from 100 people to 1,000 people in the last 8 months. Yet I have about 3 people comment on my Facebook page the entire time it's existed. I don't even look at it, to be honest, as no one sees it. What about with Gimlet? Well, Gimlet's page has nearly 30,000 likes and followers. But the last post they had was the 25th of November. And unless Facebook has blocked me from seeing more of their recent ones, it got only 3 likes, that post, which suggests either people are not engaging or they're not seeing or not engaging with podcasting on Facebook as a whole. In fact, I could count only, 9 posts on their feed this year? It's far less than I've done on my Twitter. So what about the shows? I mean, what about if you take a specific show? Well, let's say Reply All. Really popular show. It has its own page. It's a pretty popular show. It has 28,000 followers again, roughly, on Facebook. They've posted 11 times this year, but 60% of those posts were before March. So what happened after March? They just go, oh, we'll put a few more out, but we're not bothering anymore. Maybe Gimlet are getting it wrong. What about Wondery? What are they doing? Another big producer. When you look at Wondery's page, you find a lot of basically adverts rather than anything designed to engage people. They're just posting there automatically. But here's the thing. As I say, I'm getting more likes on my posts on Twitter than Wondery does on Facebook, which is meant to be a hyper-targeted platform for a big podcast company. The reason I tried Facebook ads is because there's this perception that Facebook is hyper-targeted. I wanted to see that work. That people interested in your content or adverts will see things relevant to them. It feels like Gimlet and Wondery are not putting in any effort anymore and have given up. Perhaps there's more behind this. I would love to be corrected. If you know more, please do let me know. But this really is not looking good. I set out over the past few weeks to test the theory that you could buy subscribers with Facebook ads. If it makes business sense to you to spend $5 per subscriber, then yes, it very clearly works and makes sense. Perhaps different adverts would work better. Maybe my ad was wrong. I'm currently seeing ads from a business about podcasting which looks like it's doing well using these same Ogilvy techniques, but they're not trying to get people to listen as I was in my test. Did I get the wording wrong? Ogilvy says do your market research. Well, we know the vast majority of podcasters quit within 8 to 10 episodes. So the messaging should have been right. Were the colours wrong? The design, the photo again? It's very possible, but unless you have the money to test all this, you're out of luck. Perhaps you should wait until your podcast has been going a few years to really nail down the messaging and know what works. But then most people want to get subscribers, just like me, at the start. Do people want an example of the value you give rather than a short claim? Perhaps they want an audio ad as well, has been suggested to me too. So did the Ogilvy approach to getting podcast listeners work on Facebook? No, it was a fail. Can you get more subscribers as an independent podcaster with Facebook ads with a realistic, real-world small budget? The answer again is no. Myth busted to me. So what next? Well, there clearly are ways to do it. And my next test in the next fortnight is going to take a very different approach that a lot of people have been recommended. And I've already mentioned actually in this episode as well where I'm heading with this. So subscribe if you haven't already to follow along with that. I also want to know what you think I should try next as a test. What approaches have worked for you that I should put to the test with this podcast so that I can share with everyone else? Let me know on social media. Hit Podcast 2020. It's all one word, Hit Podcast 2020 on Twitter and Instagram. And also, if you can find me on Facebook, you're welcome to reach out to me there. Don't forget also the new interview show where I interview podcasters doing one particular thing exceptionally well. First one of those is coming up on the 9th of January, depending on when you're listening to this. So you'll find out on this channel too, a recording of that as well if you missed it. My mission is to find out how we as independent podcasters can make a hit show. The mission continues next time. If you'd like to follow all my research, then click like or add a comment or give a review on iTunes, as I said earlier. Make sure you subscribe and follow along. And I hope that I can help you as I learn myself about the world of podcasting.